Welcome back to today's episode of the Tundra cast. It's just me by myself, but I have a very special guest. It's Bryan Bastin of On The Forecheck. I hope you enjoy the video, and, well, let's get right into the video. You growing up in Nashville and such, right?
hmm
How would you say that over the years, how would you say the team and the fan base and just everything around it has changed?
Well, I apologize. I think I said before I fully realized. No, I actually have been in Nashville for about 10 years now. Um, which I've had family in Tennessee, so I've been here quite a bit. And to be honest, like I just didn't really even see anything or hear much of anything at all about the Predators, outside of the city. I spent a good amount of time, about 8 or 9 years, out in Knoxville at the University of Tennessee, and we heard about the Ice Bears there, but we didn't really hear very much about the Predators. I think that trade that brought PK Subban over, and then the amazing Cup run right after that. Those are kind of the things that really solidified it as a hockey city, and it's been interesting to watch. Since that happened, since their arrival, um, you know, just looking at how the town has kind of embraced the team and how the team has been, expanding, getting bigger. They're no longer seem like little scrappy underdogs, really. Um, but the city wants to be a part of it. You see sponsors. You see a lot of sponsors that are big companies in the state of Tennessee and outside of it. And this is a premier attraction in this city. Especially being right down there on Broadway. So I think that they couldn't have, yes, the cup run and success always is going to help, but I think the fact that the city embraced the team as much as the team embraced the city in the last decade or so has really made a huge difference. And it's been really great to see a non-traditional hockey market like Nashville kind of thrive.
Yeah, it definitely is a cool thing to see. For the first time ever, I actually made it down to Nashville and I got to walk around Bridgestone, and it was
hmm
it was quite a sight to behold.
Oh yeah, it's something different. I mean, again, I started covering the team about 4 years ago. Didn't start, didn't have credentials. This is my third season now with credentials, and so I've been in Bridgestone a few handful of times. But yeah, I mean, it's a building that's it's set up to be entertainment. It's set up to be a spot for the fans. Just as much as the players. Their facilities are really great down there on the event level. Their locker room stuff like that, but it's a fan experience. Yes, it's expensive, and you got to take out a second mortgage to, go there, buy a jersey and a bunch of other things. But it's really cool. I've only, you go to a lot of football arenas, and that'd be great. Like the super expensive ones. If you talking about like Jerry World down in Dallas and Arlington, that's like a thing. But a lot of times, even some of the bigger stadiums on bigger teams, they're lots of sections are pretty old, and so you get into like the upper decks and it's not that great. It's concrete seats, things like that. And Bridgestone has they've prided themselves on winning a venue of the year. I mean, not just for having hockey, but hosting shows and concerts and things like that. Like I think they've won it like 3 or 4 times in the last 5 years. So they know that they do entertainment there at Bridgestone, and the Predators are been a huge draw for that entertainment because it's going to bring a lot of people downtown that wouldn't normally be down there. But it's really great. They roll out all the stops. They've really made a ton of improvements. They were forced a couple of years back when the pandemic happened to change a lot of what they did, and they had us come in once things were kind of safe enough to be open. Everybody masked up and stuff, and they had done complete overhauls of like entire systems. They went to being completely cashless, things like that. And that's another good thing about it is that this team has got to be happy being in Bridgestone Arena. So I don't think we're ever going to see those days of worrying about the team picking up and leaving, going somewhere in Canada.
Yeah, well, especially with the ownership change coming up.
hmm
I don't think Bill Haslam, is that his first name? Bill.
I believe so.
I don't think a Tennessee native is just gonna be like, I want to move this team to Canada.
Yeah.
So I think that
No.
helps.
I think that, yeah, those days I think are safely in the past now, unless barring something catastrophic happening for a decade. I just don't think that's going to happen anymore.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, I want to ask, like, how did you get started? Not only covering analytics but also getting started in on the forecheck.
Yeah, I mean, so I know people kind of still laugh when I tell this story because when you think about, when people think about Nashville Predators fans, especially, outside of the city, a lot of them pointed to the cup year and said, "Oh, these are all bandwagon fans." And unfortunately, that's exactly what I was. Yeah, I had been here for about 3 or 4 years. Just had my first daughter. She was about three or 4 when I started kind of watching it, and I watched her in that cup run. And I had watched college hockey. I'd spent 8 years when I was a kid growing up in North Dakota. So I used to watch UND quite a bit. And I'd been to a couple of games down in Tampa when I lived there. But, it was never a huge thing for me. I'm a lifelong football fan, college football, NFL. That was my thing that I, obsessed over and tried and talked about online, in high school, things like that. But I felt kind of bad because I was like, I'm having way too much fun watching this team. And I've got a brand new baby, that I'm staying up most nights, in her room for a couple hours trying to rock her to sleep or keep her to sleep. And so I was like, I might as well, put the hockey game on my phone, watch it while I'm trying to rock a baby to sleep. And, I want to watch as many as I can this season and see if, it's really as fun as it is. And it absolutely was. So that was really great. The problem was that, didn't have hockey knowledge at that point, not only just for the Predators, because one of my weak spots is still some of the early teams because that just wasn't around for it, but trying to get exposure to the rest of the NHL so I can catch up. And we didn't have cable at that point. Now, you can stream a game or two, but you really just can't watch a bunch of games like you can with football and things like that. So analytics was kind of a thing that I'd been interested in a little bit, just kind of learning the stats and things like that, kind of as a way to learn, who was good, do the numbers back up these names that I hear that are really great. And so that's kind of how I got into it, between that. And then I started listening to Justin Bradford, on Penalty Box Radio on the radio, a couple times a week, listened to him, started kind of listening to a few podcasts. And by the end of that time, I had wanted to, I had been talking more, posting more on Twitter, but this was in the days that, Twitter was basically, me and like 100 people I actually knew, talking about it. And I had started tagging on the forecheck in some of the things, really bad, Excel looking charts and things like that, just god awful stuff. And then, they thought that was interesting. So, you know, try not to make this story too long, but my day job, I worked here in Nashville. Our company had a license for Tableau, which is what I kind of use now a lot for a lot of the stuff that I do. And I went to my boss. I was like, I really think we should use it. And she goes, well, you need to show me what it can do before we can even commit to you doing it. Well, I couldn't pay for my own license, so I had the online one for free. So I was like, I'll pick hockey data and I'll just do that. So I started kind of practicing using Tableau to build out hockey stuff that didn't look like hot trash. And as I started doing that again, started kind of tweeting it on the forecheck because they were the site that I loved reading the most. And Sean Smith, who's now with A to Z, he came to me and he was like, hey, and would love to have you help me write an article. I think it was on the Jofa line back. He's like, I want you to provide the charts. I'll do a lot of the writing, but you can add stuff too. And I was like, yeah, I can make charts. Please don't ever ask me to write because I don't know anything and I'm not a good writer. Um, and after I did that, we did that. It was a two-parter. It was really good. It did pretty well. And about a week later, they asked me to come on as a writer. So I came on as a volunteer for about a year. And by then I was just fully hooked. I was fully enjoying the benefits that Pred's Twitter has to offer. And started talking more and more to people, not just here in Nashville who are, big voices, but, all around, especially with analytics. It's, the funny thing is about it is, it seems like it's something hard to kind of get your foot into, but the people are so nice. They're so willing to just kind of go out of their way and help you or answer questions. And so, I started pretending. I was like, well, I'm in my 30s now. I'm a dad. I'm in my 30s. No formal training. Not a hockey, fan for life, but I'm having the time of my life. So I just started putting more and more effort into it, and it paid off. A couple of years later, I was able to, get credentials and start covering the games live, and that everything's kind of taken off from there.
Yeah, that just sounds really cool. Unlike, what some people might want you to believe, you don't have to go into the podcasting and just talking about teams. Having insider knowledge and such, but you don't need that. It's just the best
No.
way to get into the sport is to just be a fan and start talking about it. I mean, that's literally why, my friends and I made this show is we just wanted to talk about hockey.
Yeah. And that's the best part. I mean, yeah, it's if you can be some guy that has a bunch of rumors and that draws people in, that's one thing, but there's no substance to that. And you guys talking about hockey here on the show, you guys aren't going to have that much different information than me. I mean, the Predators make the post game questions all available online. You're watching the same game I am. Maybe I'm making it some practices, but there's not a ton that you can glean from practice most of the time as a outside observer. So, it is definitely where anybody should be able to jump in. Anybody who cares. Again, started for me, didn't write ever, and hadn't really watched hockey. But if you're passionate enough about it and you like to talk to people about it, there's a space for that. There's a good part of Nashville being a small town market comparatively, because there's plenty of space for growth. There's plenty of places. And people, I had people like Justin Bradford and Chris Martell and Charlie Saunier, like all were people who had already been, in the media, been in, the hockey business around in this town. And they were always nice enough to, take time out of their day to help me and give me advice. Chris Martell was the first person to have me on the radio, which I still remember driving from my parents' house. I was going to have dinner with them when he called. And I spent that next 45 minutes like shaking all the way there, driving all the way out to the radio station. Because I was like, I have no clue what I'm doing. Like, I'd never done anything like that. And, it's I can't say that I did all of this, based on my hard work or anything like that. A lot of it's luck. And a lot of it's just talking, getting to know people. That's the good thing about Twitter. You don't have to meet people in person and shake their hand and make awkward small talk. You can, chime in when you want to, and eventually these people might, start remembering who you are, and you have access to some really great people.
Yeah, it definitely helps a lot. And, like for me, my journey through, becoming a hockey fan and starting this was completely different. Being from Wisconsin, you see, the Admiral, grew up an Admirals fan, and so that was how I became a Predators fan. It was just like, this is
Hmm.
I've seen all of these guys down here. Why don't I just stay a fan of their, bigger team?
Hmm.
Which eventually led in, I've met a lot of the players when they were in
That's awesome.
Milwaukee. Yeah, like we went to a Dave and Buster's once for a, charity event or something, and I got my ass handed to me at Mario Kart. My sister got her ass handed to her at air hockey, but it's fun, and it's just nice to see
Yeah.
how things grow. Because not only is Nashville's market growing, but you're starting to see a lot of Predators fans in Wisconsin
Hmm.
because of the Admirals.
Yeah, and it's really great. I mean, it's for me, it's been, as a byproduct of covering the Predators, I started paying attention to the Admirals, and I love Admirals games. Like I really enjoy watching them. I love that best looking jerseys in the AHL. If I was putting my money on it, there's a lot of really fun guys out there. Guys that probably won't make the NHL roster on a full time basis, but guys that are kind of stars of their own. Down here in the AHL, and it's a lot of fun to watch. And now that we can actually watch it, with AHL TV, you can actually have access to it. It's nice to be able to do that, because hopefully, that's going to help grow. Hockey doesn't need any growth in Wisconsin. I can tell you that. But
Yeah, we
the more you see more Predators fans up there, and people in Wisconsin are going to start to think, okay, yeah, like they've got a hockey team in Tennessee. Like, not only am I aware that they exist, but their fans are really passionate. So,
yeah, it's interesting because like over the years I would go into Admirals games just all the time because
mhm.
they're just so fun to go to. But like over the years, it would just start with just like Admirals jerseys, and now it's just like Predators jerseys are everywhere along with Admirals jerseys, and heck, even the Admirals fans are like taking the Predators chance and using them,
Yeah,
and it's
yeah, it's
like
really cool.
it's just fun to see that.
Yeah, I've seen some really cool, like really random Milwaukee jerseys at Nashville games. I think the best one I've seen was an Anders Lindback jersey from Milwaukee, and I was like,
Oh,
that's dedication. Like, he was a
yeah.
fun guy that that was on the team for a few years, but was like, that's a choice, and
Yeah,
you know what, you made it. So I got to give props to that. I love seeing, everybody can have a Forsberg or a Yossi, but I love seeing the obscure players, the players who haven't been around for 5 or 6 years.
yeah.
Those ones are always fun to see.
Yeah, you see some wild like just jerseys at Admirals games, like players that you haven't heard of in years. You'll just see. You're just like, oh,
Yeah, yeah,
uh,
it's really cool. I've been, I have been trying to find a way to get up to Milwaukee to go see a game or two. It's been I've been saying that for 2 years and just haven't had the chance to do it. But I'd kill to come up there because I just love watching the games. I've gotten to talk a few times to oh, now Aaron
Aaron
Sims there.
Sims.
Yeah, I've talked to him a few times. Like he's a really cool guy, and so like I just want to get up there, and I just haven't had the chance.
Yeah, I mean, if you ever come up here, let me know and I'll show you around.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the area around the arena isn't as populated as around Bridgestone, but it's cool to just see Pfizer Forum like right there, because
Oh yeah.
they're
I mean,
literally right across the street from each other.
that's really cool. I mean, the funny thing is though is, it is a cool draw to have Broadway right there. So as soon as you step out of the game, like you're in the middle of everything. But there's some nights, man, where I wouldn't mind just walking out and there being nothing else, around it. Like there's sometimes I'm just like, man, I want to go home. It's 11:30 and I'm sitting in traffic on Broadway trying to
No,
get out.
like if traffic was so bad, I would just like stay in the arena until they kicked me out. Just like I don't want to
I
leave.
mean, usually I do. I don't usually leave until probably an hour and a half after the horn goes because we go down from media with the players and then with Hines, and then usually I have a video or a recap to write up. And so usually I mean, it used to be last season when we were parking in that garage right there next to Bridgestone. By the time we would get out, they would just have the gates, the arms up, like they weren't even charging anybody. They're just like, yeah, just get out. So but it's getting to that time of year. I work down there now. I have a new job that's like a couple blocks from Bridgestone, and the bachelorettes, the party goers, they don't care what time it is. It can be 10:30 a.m. on a Tuesday. Like they're gonna be out wearing cowboy boots and having pink sashes and stuff. It's just it's crazy, and it's
Yeah,
something that again, you get a lot of people at Predators games who wouldn't normally be there, and you have a lot of people who are on Broadway who wouldn't normally be down there, but that's what the team kind of brings in there. So it's really cool. Despite me being grumpy about taking an extra 20 minutes to get home.
at least it's not as bad as sometimes when I go down to Chicago to watch a baseball game and we're stuck in traffic for like two
Oh
hours.
yeah.
It's
Oh
like
yeah, I know better than complain about that. Yeah.
I live an hour away from Chicago basically, and I get stuck in traffic for like an hour or two. Just please.
Yeah. It's yeah. I mean, that's cool though. I mean, you're right. You're right there, and so and getting to Chicago, it's not too far. Maybe like a 7 or 8 hours from here.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
from my house to Bridgestone is like 8 9 hours, I believe.
Oh wow,
Yeah,
that's not too bad. That's a lot less than I would have expected.
yeah. No, Nashville and well, Tennessee and Wisconsin are a lot closer than they seem.
Yeah, yeah. But I've been trying. I think if I can't make it up to Milwaukee this season, I am. My backup plan is to go up the next time Milwaukee plays the Wolves there in Chicago and go see them. So
Yeah, that sounds like a plan.
yeah, I got to do it. So
um, well, yeah, we just completely forgot. On to
let's keep
the,
going as long
yeah,
as
on
you
to
want
more
to go.
questions. Yeah, no, I kind of
Go for
forgot
it.
that I was even asking you questions for that.
That's good. I'm having a great time.
Yes, I am too. I guess since you started reporting, you know, prospects are such an important part of the game and matter a lot to every team and their success. I mean, up here in Milwaukee, we have a saying, the road to Nashville goes through Milwaukee.
Hmm.
Uh, I guess what prospect have you had the highest opinion of since you started?
Since I've started, wow. So I will say this year and last year, but mostly a lot more this year since I've seen him a lot more is Yuso Parsonen. And I know that a lot of us at the website have been, you know, talking about him just because Eric, our prospecting guy, is one of the best prospects people you'll find anywhere. Period. We he was like, no, this guy is really good. He was a seventh round pick, but he's really good. And so I went and saw him at camp and things like that, and I'm just blown away. Like, he's not going to be in Milwaukee long. Like, I'd be willing to bet money that he will be in Nashville by probably around 3/4 of the way through the season. He'll be there.
I I would say
I've been,
he's gonna become up. He's gonna come up before the trade deadline.
yeah, that's definitely a possibility. He's, it's not been like the quickest start as far as scoring has gone, for the ads this season so far. But I mean, he's just been impressive with everything that he's been doing, and so I like him a lot. The very first prospect I ever saw as a fan was before I was reporting was went to the Future Stars game and saw Sammy Gerard, and I absolutely loved him. I was like, oh man, I can't wait to watch this guy play for the Predators forever. And then, what, 3 4 months later.
Yeah.
So I've learned to like not get too excited about certain prospects because I'm like, you never know if they're going to stay around.
Yeah.
There are some guys I was just out completely wrong about, like Alexander Carrier. I thought he was never going to be NHL ready. That Freddie Allard was the better defender, and if Carrier came up, it wasn't going to be for long. And I think he was the best rookie on the team last year.
Yeah, I mean, either him or Tomasino were definitely or Janelle were the best rookies.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I've been around like the Admirals a lot like forever, like since I was born. So,
Mm-hmm.
since, obviously I was born in 2003, so I've been around the Admirals since then.
Right.
And so I've seen a lot, like, Rene, Saros, just all these guys coming up and going through to Nashville. And I think like when Juuso Parisinen was drafted, I was very high on him. I was like, this guy's gonna be really good. I think he's gonna take a lot longer. I thought he was gonna take like 2 3 years to develop. I was wrong about that, but
Yeah.
I'm glad I was right saying that he was gonna become very good.
Mm-hmm.
I said Saros. I said when it was Saros' first season in Milwaukee, I said to my dad that he was gonna be a Vezina candidate, and my dad looked at me sideways.
Yeah.
But I've been pretty wrong about some prospects too.
I think you were dead on with that one.
Yeah, I
Absolutely spot on.
yeah. Sometimes I get it pretty right, and then sometimes I get it horribly wrong. I can't even think about the last time I was really wrong about a prospect. I think it was uh Jeremy Davies, I believe. I was like, man,
Yeah, me too.
man, he's eventually gonna come up to Nashville and he's just gonna be great, and that it just never.
Yeah. Like, I thought he'd be a guy that would be at the very least, you know, on the third pair NHL guy. I did not expect, and I thought, because he came over, in the Subban trade, and then when they hired Hines, I thought, hey, Hines knows this guy, maybe he'll get it. But I guess he did know him, and he was like, yeah, it's probably not worth it.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's interesting to just you see these guys in Nash or in Milwaukee, and you're just like, I wonder how long he's gonna be here.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, looking at the roster right now, looking at the Admirals roster, I mean, I think if there's guys that have a chance to be on, get more than like a call up game here or there, I think we'll probably see Askarov a few more times. I don't think that they're in any rush to get him in the NHL at all. They probably want him to play as much of a full season as he can.
Yeah, I don't think
Uh,
he'll be called up this season. I think it'll be like a year to 3 years until we see him.
Yeah, I think they'll give Mark Jankowski a chance probably sooner rather than later. I think that his game's been really good. I think he's now sitting at I think 4 goals, 5 goals. He had one. They thought he had one earlier tonight, but yeah, I mean, he's been really great. Tommy Novak, I think he is that kind of guy who can play at the NHL level. He's just kind of stuck there in between, but he's one of those reliable guys. We'll see Tomasino back. I think people are really worried too much about that. I think this is nothing but good experience for Phil, and maybe Luke Evangelista. I think he was another guy that stood out at the training camp. or rookie camp rather, because you could just look if you didn't know anybody's names, you couldn't see the names in the back of the jersey, and you just watch these guys skate. There was one guy who kind of didn't look like any of the others, and it was Evangelista. His skating is just, a level above everybody else's. He just looks like an NHL type of a player, and so I wouldn't be surprised if we see him, for a handful of games as well.
I would say Ask or not Askarov, Afanaseyev will eventually bull rush his way into
Yeah,
the roster of the
yeah,
NHL.
he's the man. He's great. He's a great dude. He's fun to talk to, really fun to talk to. I mean, he fans everywhere he's been love him,
Yeah,
whether it was overseas in Milwaukee, up in Windsor. That's kind of how I got to the director of analytics for the Spitfires. He was just working as a stats guy there, and he saw me posting, about Igor, and he started sharing some of the stuff that he was, the stats and stuff that he was doing, and he says that Igor is actually really like his favorite thing to do after games was to go and get like his stats sheet, like his advanced stats sheets from him, because he was always interested to see how he did and wanted to learn about it, which again like endeared him to me even more. I'm like, oh my god, this guy likes this stuff too. But he's just been real fun. I mean, he interacts with Predators fans quite a bit,
yeah,
and
I
it's really great.
yeah. Well, he's in that group chat that I was in, the Predators one on Twitter.
That's right. Yeah.
The
Yep.
ego one. I haven't been there in quite a while. But yeah, he was in there and he talks sometimes. And the game on what was it, Wednesday, that the Admirals played against Texas. After the game, Jimmy Huntington and Igor were doing like autograph sessions, and I walked up to him and I was like, hey man, could you sign my hat? And he signs it, and it like. You know how silver sharpies sometimes are in black hats, where it doesn't
Yeah.
it doesn't show up right away. Like after like an hour or two, it'll come through.
Yeah.
But he signs it. And he's like, it's good enough. He was like, it's good enough.
Oh man, yeah, he's a really cool kid. I really like, I'm really glad that he's in Milwaukee again. He had himself, I think he had himself a goal in the first tonight, which is really good to see because he'd been playing like an animal when I was kind of half watching earlier. So
And
yeah, he's a really cool guy and someone I'm excited to see. I don't know what his place will be in the NHL. I can't confidently say that this is a middle six even type of a guy. But I mean, I think if he can get in there and kind of play a game like maybe not quite as close to Yakov Trenin or Tanner Janot, but kind of that style of hockey where he's driving it into the net, making himself a kind of a nuisance. I think that that there could be a role for him, and I'm excited to see.
yeah.
This year is going to be a big year for him with Milwaukee.
Well, funnily enough, speaking about the trade, we actually got Igor Afanaseyev as a result of that trade that sent Subban to the Devils.
That's right. I've forgotten about that. That's a good pull.
Yeah, I made an entire like look back at that trade video like a while ago,
Oh yeah.
and I
I
just
mean, I
researched it, and I was just like, oh, we actually came
yeah.
out very far ahead.
Yeah, yeah, it really did work out. I mean, not just, it hurt because you didn't want to see that, but I mean, they were right on about the fact that yeah, he was missing a step in his game, and
Yeah,
now he's retired. It's just, it sucks to see because I think the NHL is a better league with him in it, but hopefully they make sure to get him out and calling games and get him in front of a camera as much as possible because he's one of the most entertaining people in the entire sport.
yeah, definitely. He's definitely very entertaining. But obviously that while the trade did hurt and was very confusing, I remember when I was doing yard work and I got the notification for the trade, and I was just like, what? I was just like, what the hell's going? What is this? And I was just like, what is happening? And then over the years, it's become like hey, this has been pretty good. I mean, we were able to sign Duchesne with a lot of the space we freed up.
Yeah. Yeah, they've managed to make a lot of things happen. You got to give them credit there. But yeah, I mean, shoot, I think it was what 4 years ago now that Subban was traded. 3 years?
The trade was June 29th, 2017, I believe. I believe.
Wow. To New Jersey?
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, so I think I mean
Oh
I
wait,
had
no, not to New Jersey, to Montreal. We got Subban in the trade to yeah. My bad. I was talking about the Subban Weber trade.
yeah, it was I was gonna say 2019. So yeah, I had just started. I think I started at On The Forecheck at the beginning of June, and then June 22nd, I was getting ready to cover. I remember because it was right. They traded him right at like during the draft, right?
Yeah, it was June 22nd, 2019.
Yeah, and so I like that was my first like I was one of the things I was really excited to cover about this Preds was to talk, because I really loved PK and I was like excited to talk about him and they traded him right as I was like gearing up to cover my first draft and I was like, what's going on? Like, oh no.
You're
So I
like, man,
mean, but yeah,
I'm not having fun anymore.
it's just like okay, fine. Like, who else y'all are gonna take? Who else are you gonna take from me? But I mean, it turned out to be, it's kind of like the Ryan Ellis situation. Like, I hated that move too, but obviously, I think things a little bit different just for the fact that he was injured maybe more than anybody knew, but
Yeah, I mean,
they actually made it a good decision.
yeah, I mean, for being around this team for as long as I have, I've just learned that whenever David Poyle makes a move, just wait like anytime there's a trade, I'm just like, all right, just wait
Yeah,
because
yeah,
I remember when like the Ellis trade happened, I was very angry, and now I look at it, and I'm like, man, we got Ryan McDonough from that basically.
yeah, yeah. I mean, it's really cool. I mean, it did work out. You just have to have faith sometimes. I mean, sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. And you get situations like Kyle Turris or other guys like that where they brought him in just never worked and they moved on.
Well, actually, Turris did work until we extended him, and then he stopped working.
Yeah, well, he also well, I could go on about that one too, but
Uh,
he was put into position he was put in positions to fail.
yeah,
And I mean, yes, he wasn't the player he was going to be, but they didn't make it any easier and now they're paying him $2 million until 2026. So
yeah.
it's a heck of a like paycheck to get though.
Yeah. Obviously, it's not the worst buyout in the league right now, but it's a situation where it's just like, man, that 2 mil that's just sitting there
Hmm.
isn't fun.
No, it's not. No, definitely not.
But yeah, I mean, it's just been the Predators season this year so far has been interesting, to say the
That
least.
it really has. I mean, because you don't expect to see a team start this way, especially when they did nothing but improve from what the roster looked like a year ago. But yeah, it's been interesting. That's a really good word for it.
Yeah, but like obviously there's that like start of like you're upset that this is going on, but then you're just like, well, the Predators always start slow, and it's just it gets frustrating and it gets confusing, but you just hope that it like rounds out.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And I think it will. I mean, I don't think that they're a team that is as bad as that 5 game losing streak made them look. Um, I think a lot of it just seems like the guys just weren't, they're making mental errors. They just weren't doing everything that they were supposed to. I mean, you'd have these nice games from like one line or the other, but the team kind of wasn't putting it together, and you're getting the boneheaded penalties, and you're getting the blown leads, and
Yeah.
it's things that to me like it never looked like it never looked like Forsberg or Duchesne or Johansson or like bad. They just weren't clicking yet. And I
Yeah.
think last night that game it's gonna. I mean, it could be a fluke. You never know. Like, is this team the team that did really well against the St. Louis last night, or is this the team that we saw for 5 games before that? It's going to be interesting, but I think this team is closer to what we saw against St. Louis than the rest of the games.
Yeah, and I think that a lot of it, obviously Roman Yossi is the leader of the team. Not only is he wearing the C, but he's the leader, of the team no matter what. So I think
Hmm.
just got a notification on my phone. Mark Jankowski scored, so that a bit of a
Nice.
yeah. He's the leader of the team, and I think him going to his home country and having that thing, it might have just been like a homecoming, and then when you get back to America and you're kind of still home, but at the same time you have to quickly adjust. But
Right.
so I think it might have just been a little bit of like a transitioning.
Hmm. Yeah, definitely. And it's I don't know. Like I think they all knew. I mean, you have to take what they say sometimes with a grain of salt because they'll be like, "Well, we just didn't execute," and they say the same thing a lot of the times. But I didn't get the feeling at all from the players that this was like we need to panic or we don't know why it's not, it's not working, that type of thing. Yeah, I think it was just like, yeah, we're not playing good hockey. We're making errors, stuff like that. And so uh yeah, I would be surprised. Again, I wouldn't sit there and say absolutely that this team is really good and they just, had a bad stretch of games. But I still think, if I had to pick, I still think they're a better team than what we've been seeing.
I think I think that I think the best looking game that they played was the one against Philadelphia. Obviously, the final scorecard doesn't really show that, but
Right.
if it wasn't for Carter Hart, we would have won that game.
Right.
But
But at the
I
same time, as we heard that about Nashville, then like, yeah, if it wasn't for Pecorine, we wouldn't have
if
won.
it wasn't for Pecorine, if it wasn't for UC Saros, and if
Hmm.
it wasn't for him, but no, I think that this Predators team is starting to get back on its you know back on its horse. Starting
Yeah.
to go like it should. You
Hmm.
know, whether that continues to go or doesn't, we'll see.
Right.
I mean, hopefully the team starts performing like it should because
They need to.
yeah, they need to obviously,
Hmm.
but it's a better situation than what it seems to be.
Yeah. And I think, yeah, it's rough because again, like you look at this and you could say like, okay, let's say this team is the team that played St. Louis. Like they're not they're not, they're not going to be good enough to win the Central and beat out Colorado at this point, but they're still a good team, but it's tough because you have these teams that are pretty good. They can have the talent to get to the playoffs and maybe steal a round or two, but after that, they're not doing much. And so they pick in the middle of the draft. Like it's just, they seem to never really fully commit to either rebuilding or, I think most people think that the window, as far as Stanley Cup right now has been closed for a few years. And so it's hard because you don't want this team to outright fail and tank their way to getting, a lottery pick. You don't necessarily want that. Especially now that you finally get guys locked in like Roman Yossi and Forsberg and Duchesne and Johansson to a lesser extent. You've got all these guys there that are built there to be your core. And a lot of those guys had phenomenal career seasons. I mean, talk about Forsberg and Duchesne and Roman Yossi all having their best seasons, but I mean, Ryan Johansson. Nobody really talked about Ryan Johansson's after last season. I mean, he had 26 goals last year, which is by far more than he had, in any season with Nashville. I think it was the second highest in his career. 26 goals playing with Luke Cunnin, which how he managed that 26 goals playing next to Luke Cunnin is beyond me. And he's a guy like all these guys, say what you will about Hines. He does not have the issue that we saw, under Laviolette, and with he knows how to coach up his forwards. Like he knows how to get his forwards to score and not be a team that's relying on a bunch of 15, 16 goal scorers and
Yeah,
some defensemen taking 1,000 shots a season from the blue line.
yeah. I will say this: John Hines, while most of the moves he makes are just very confusing,
Uh-huh.
extremely confusing, like benching Tolvanen and just weird moves. Like he's not a bad coach in at all, I wouldn't say. And while most of the things he does are very confusing, they seem to work more often than not.
Yeah, I mean, I think, and it's just because I don't know. It's a big year for him as well because the first couple of years were the pandemic. He came in halfway through the season when he got hired, then the pandemic, and it really hasn't been like a normal year for him until maybe last season. And now he's got players and people that he's really pushed to keep, and so this team is going to be what John Hines wants it to be. Yeah, and it's now we're going to find out. The players definitely seem committed to it. They seem committed to his style of forecheck heavy hockey. You're not going to zoom through the neutral zone and be a fast break offense. That's unfortunately that's not what Nashville is. And they're following through on that. They want to be hard hitters. They're going to take penalties and they're going to try to force everything out to the outside. And that's, I mean, that for better or worse, that's what they are. And so, it'll be real telling to see this year, this season, what he can do with this talent. Because again, he's had better talent every year that he's been a coach. The better talent than the previous year. So, you know, there won't be many excuses, if this season doesn't go well.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think a big like thing is that obviously he has what he wants around him now. Obviously, the penalties thing can go very wrong. I mean, you don't want to be on the penalty kill so many times a game.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously that can be fixed up a little bit, but I would say it's better to take worthwhile penalties than to just take boneheaded ones. Like
Yeah.
if you're going to be taking 10 if you're going to take 10 penalties a game, which should never happen, but if it does happen, then all 10 of them should be necessary taken penalties.
Yeah. Yeah. And you don't get it. Sometimes you can't get upset about things like that. About those if it's just guys trying to get to the puck, out muscle them. You draw a penalty because the other team's got an odd man rush. Like, yeah, it's fine. But there have been a ton of for Nashville. I mean, you look at Matt Duchene. Uh, the last two losses. Making those really bad penalties towards the end of the game, and kind of sinking any momentum that Nashville had. Like those, you can't stand those because you can't have those in those situations, especially not out of a guy like Duchesne. You can't do it.
Yeah, definitely not. And like, yeah, a lot of things about Nashville could be cleaned up right now, like the amount of penalties being taken, getting everybody just on their best right now and just trying to make everything click. The power play could use some work, but for the most part, this team isn't as bad as they seem.
No, I don't think so. I think they're a little bit better, than you would expect. Uh, the question will just be is, how much better can they be? This isn't making the playoffs isn't the bar you're reaching for now.
No.
I think it was fair, because I said that prior to last season. I was like, look, if they make the playoffs, it's been a successful season for Nashville, and it was. But you would expect when you break so many franchise records and you have some of the best offense you've ever seen this team have, you'd think that would have translated into them being at least making it to like the conference finals. But so you can't sit there and say that making the playoffs or even winning one round is enough anymore.
Yeah.
And it's going to be interesting to see because we've got new ownership. Who knows how long David Poyle is going to be around. That eventually the new owner, Haslam and the rest of the ownership group, they're going to be anxious to kind of start steering things in a different direction. And if they want to keep up with what they've got right now and how it looks right now, they've got to win.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I would say a big thing on this is like obviously last year in the playoffs, I don't know how much differently it would have looked if Saros didn't get hurt when he did.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that we would have beaten Colorado, but I think that it wouldn't have been a sweep, definitely.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, but yeah, but a lot. No, not many other teams could beat them. So.
yeah, I would say obviously the goal isn't just if you make the playoffs, it's a great year. It's how far can you get into the playoffs. And I think that the main thing that Nashville needs is once they start the playoffs, it's going to be their matchups and if they're healthy.
Mm-hmm. Yep, 100%. I 100% agree with you on that one.
Yeah, so like I mean, last year before the start of the season, we did like a hot takes episode,
Mm-hmm.
and it was the. I mean, I don't. I'm gonna toot my own horn here, but I got every single hot take I made right. They were all right.
Nice.
But even better is my one hot take that I was like, this is just gonna be me being a homer. I said both Ryan Johansson and Matt Duchene would have bounce back years, and
Good
I and
call.
I just I just look like a genius. So I was just like, yeah,
Yeah, you got it on tape too. I mean, that's the best part.
yeah. There's a few like instances where I've called something directly like right before it happened, like on streams and such, and it's just weird.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, it is nice when you come up on one of those. I mean, and you'd like to think that as you watch more and more, you've got a better idea for it. You know that it's not fully a guess or feeling, but it's nice when you get some of those right.
Yeah,
It's always a good feeling.
yeah. I mean, I'll never say that I know exactly what I'm doing because I don't. They're just feeling guesses.
Right.
I'm not gonna say that I have an inside scoop or I can like predict stuff. No, it's just guessing.
Hey, it's not much different than what I do sometimes. So
Yeah, or what
we
anyone
all
else
guess.
does.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah. It's just when you guess, you just got to make sure that you don't end up looking like a fool.
Yeah, or just be gracious enough to when the time comes to say, "Hey, I was wrong," instead of
Yeah.
doubling down.
Yeah,
But
and
yeah,
and and take the if you do get made fun of, take the jarring.
yeah, exactly.
Oh, and like don't immediately say that. I'm still thinking about the tweet that it was the tweet where there was those people on the podcast just saying how you
Oh God,
shouldn't
yeah.
you should be in it if you're not an insider. What do you mean?
I mean, I think the funny thing is too is they said that and like Locked On like as a network is it's mostly fans. It's not always like people who work in local coverage. I mean, so it's funny that he said that because especially now like the part of the problem even here in Nashville for a while on the forecheck we didn't have credentials because of issues with previous people and with the team and sometimes it's hard to like they want to let in the same people every game and that's it. They don't want to open it up to anybody who's new to come to the games and cover it, and so you get that old boys club of these are the people that cover the team, these are the ones who know, and so we're the only people who know what we're talking about. And I always think that's BS. One, even though I'm there, I still don't feel like I know any more what I'm talking about than any other person, but it's you want to have like other voices. You want to have people who don't think the same way you do, even if they may be like completely off or maybe they may be wrong about something. They're still looking at it differently, and that's why like me, I always enjoy it. The days that we go down to the locker room and there's 8 9 media members and we have to kind of push our way to get questions out. I prefer that almost every time rather than some nights when it's just like 2 or 3 people and we can ask them as many questions as we want if we can think of any. I like it because you think about it and people phrase things or pose a question that you just had no idea, like you didn't even think about that, and it's great stuff. So it only makes you a better person,
Yeah,
a better journalist or whatever you want to call it.
yeah, and that's what's really fun about this podcast, especially is because like we all are fans of different teams. Like yeah, there's a few people who are fans of the same teams as each other, but most of us
Hmm.
are fans of different teams.
Yeah,
I'm the only
yeah.
Predators fan here.
Yeah, I mean that's I was one of the my friend Heath. This is the one who kind of started teaching me about hockey when I started watching, and he's a Capitals fan. He did that. I grew up with a bunch of Tampa Bay Lightning fans when I lived down there, and it's good to get that. As long as they're not Chicago fans, you're most of the time going to end up getting learning something good from
there,
people.
there's actually like two Chicago fans on this podcast, and they're nice.
I'm sure I'm sure
They're
they're the
actually nice, but I've had horrible interactions with Chicago fans in my
Yeah,
lifetime.
I mean, so have I, but I've also had horrible interactions with Predators fans. So it's,
The
it's just one of those things that you get it. There's always people out there,
yeah,
it could be worse. It could be, when you deal with a fan base like Toronto's,
yeah.
there are days where I sit there and think like, man, I'm glad I don't cover the Maple Leafs just
we
because like
we have
it's so fun to watch them, crash and burn. And it is, I do get genuine enjoyment out of it, but at the same time, it's just like, man, those guys are just, a guy who covers the Leafs will tweet something. He's got 200 replies, and you're like, oh, I can't even imagine like that type of pressure, I guess, and
uh,
that like that many fans always angry,
yeah the
which is still very funny. Don't get me wrong.
yeah. I've never had a bad experience with a Nashville fan before. Like it's mainly just like even on Twitter, which can usually just be a cesspool of people who are just bad sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
I've never had a bad, like, it's usually just a lot of us just joking around and making jokes, and it, I've never just had a bad experience. The team I've had the worst experience with fans is definitely Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
I've told the story before where I went to a game and Chicago fans. I went to a game. It was the only NHL game I've ever been to. I was like, I don't know, like 7. We went to a Kings Blackhawks game because my dad and sister are Kings fans because he's from Southern California, and me, I'm the only oddball out of us who likes a
Mm-hmm.
different team. But we
Right.
we went there, and we're Kings fans there, and people are trying to block our view, you know, make sure that we can't see. And like at one point, a lady walked up to me and started screaming at me, and I'm like
Oh
7.
Lord.
I'm 7, and I'm
Yeah.
so confused. It's just like, really?
Yeah. It's but it's just you get that. I mean, yeah, I mean, like in person, if you're in a visiting arena, it's one thing. I mean, I'm fairly proud of the fact that Nashville fans seem to be, for the most part, pretty welcoming, pretty nice, pretty great with other fans. But again, you just see, when alcohol and a bunch of people and testosterone's involved, like you're gonna get the idiots. And like I can't say like there's maybe one person I've ever seen that's been like truly a toxic person
Yeah.
on the internet, but
But
in person, you're going to see that more because it's just
yeah,
like, oh yeah. But these are people that aren't going to be reading, what you say and have to worry about that. They know what they think, and that's probably all that matters.
yeah.
So
The good thing about the Predators fan base, though, is it seems like whenever there's a bad apple in the Predators fan base, all the good ones just immediately get on them. Like, dude, you got to stop
yeah,
this.
yeah, and that's one of the things that really drew me to it is just it's a nice it's hockey Twitter, Predators Twitter for the most part. I genuinely enjoy it. I think I've met so many great people because of it, and for the most part, it can be a pretty nice place to be. They're, like I said before, welcoming to new people. They're always willing to kind of support each other and what they're doing. I still think it still gives me a weird feeling when somebody who I think is amazing or somebody I admire will like put something in their story like that I've said, or they'll retweet something. I'm just like, oh God, like I can't imagine. I've got a DM from Elliot Friedman that I just keep. It was just I asked him a question, he responded, he told me something that really wasn't relevant, and that was it. And I was just like, I talked to Elliot Friedman, like
Yeah,
I feel like a real boy now.
yeah. Yeah. Hockey Twitter, Press Twitter is just basically just how you and I started talking.
Yeah. And it's great. I mean, that's again, I get to talk. I've met a bunch of people. I mean, like you talked about with that group chat, like I'm not in there very often, but I also realize that all of them are children, and I'm, again in my mid 30s. But it's fun. They're all just like, okay, dad, whatever, and it's just great. It's really great. They've all been great people. It's fun to have that community, and I really, I'm really glad that I'm here in Nashville covering this team. I don't think I could be one of those people that lived in another city and covered a team just because I really think that I've gotten to see a lot of these people. Getting to meet people at games is my favorite. It's awkward, sometimes, because especially if you've never seen that person in real life before, and you don't know what their actual real name is. But it's really cool, and I've been very happy. I'm very lucky to be doing what I'm doing. But if I had one message, it's just that if I can do that and get to the point where I'm at, it literally I think anybody can, because I it's just a matter of getting out there and putting yourself out there, and sometimes you don't know what you're talking about, sometimes you're wrong, but people like to hear it. I mean, like the reason why I started going on the forecheck and even ended up writing for them was because I was sitting at work the next day after games, like looking for stuff to read, desperate. And they had great stuff that I enjoyed reading. And I still don't consider myself a great writer, to be honest, but I've got really great people that I can learn from, and things have gotten better every year. I've gotten more opportunities, and it's because of other people. And so I know we just put out a call for writers and contributors. If you think it would be fun to do it, and you think you could write, 4 or 5 paragraphs about the team and what you think's going on, do it. There's nothing stopping you. Trust me. I've, if you're, the worst that can happen is your story gets put out there. You get a couple hundred views and no one talks about it again. And that's not the end of the world because I have, dozens that are just like that one, especially ones where I put a ton of work into it and I was like, man, this is going to be great stuff. And just nobody read it. And I was like, okay, well, oh, well, you have to just keep going. And then this, something stupid that I post or something, I tweet, that's like, that's the one that blows up and gets several thousand likes because I can't remember what it was. That it was something really stupid this season. It's already happened and it blew up and I'm just like, why? Like it was a joke and it has nothing to do with anything, but everybody enjoyed it. So, it's you can always, you're never gonna you always get zero views if you don't write the article, if you don't try.
Yeah,
And
that
if the place is open up to say, hey, we want submissions, you want to try something, it's one thing to do it on your own blog. I've tried doing that. It's not that great. But getting a chance, you have to step up your game when you're not writing just for you. And I think if you have any inkling, anybody has any inkling of, hey, maybe this would be fun, I really, really recommend you do it. And, there are plenty of people out here in Nashville or anywhere else in, hockey Twitter that would be more than willing to help you out.
yeah, I mean, heck, just you don't even have to like do any. You don't even have to do it and like post it. Like I get, well, obviously you'd want to post it, but heck, you don't even have to post it. Just write about it.
Yep.
And
Yep. And then you learn a ton. There's a lot of things I learned specifically because I got them wrong publicly. And then I'm like, I'm not making that mistake again and just move on. No one remembers it. So I remember it. I think about it all the time, but nobody else does. So, there's not, it's Nashville. It's a smaller town, it's you're it, there's really no reason, if you enjoy it, if you like it, start that podcast with your friends and talk about whatever you want. Don't worry about having sponsors or a certain, specific outline that you do every single day and fancy graphics, just do it. Just sit on the mic with your friends and, you're getting the same thing that anybody else would like to do, just hear a bunch of people talking hockey and it's fun. You learn more, you have a good time, and it's nice. They make podcasting's a whole lot easier now because of the pandemic. So
yeah, yeah, it's definitely just a fun thing to do with with my friends and such. And it's a shame that it's just me right now, and they're not. There's not more people here, but it's definitely fun when during like the streams when we're streaming like the draft
uh-huh.
or like free agency, and we're just sitting there for like 7 hours.
Hmm.
I'll get bored and I'll just start messing around, like muting one of my friends just randomly, or
Of
editing,
course.
or just for fun editing wiki articles.
Yeah.
just just
It's
just having fun and joking around. I think that's like the main point of what you should be looking for.
Yeah, and honestly, I would say that's having fun and joking around. It feels like it's about 60% of my current job, anyways. I mean, just to be honest, because I can throw numbers at you all day, but it's most of the time I'm just having a good time watching. I'm watching hockey with a bunch of other people sitting at my computer, and it's a good time. And so, uh, you know, I have no journalism training. I wasn't a lifelong hockey fan. I've only been in Nashville for about 10 years now. Like, if that's all the evidence, I think that most people, if you have any doubts, all you should need to be like, oh man, he's right. Like literally anybody can do this. So
Yeah,
just get out there and be passionate about it. Put yourself out there. Don't be afraid.
yeah, 100%. It's just you don't even like, just try it. Like
Hmm.
there's no shame in failing.
Yeah, I mean, it's something that I'm definitely like those like people were saying on Twitter a couple weeks ago. Like, I'm definitely not doing this for the money. Uh, but I've taken on more and more responsibilities every year, despite what I get paid is not enough to even claim on my taxes. Let's put it that way. And it's just fine, which is fine because it's a blog. I don't have these strict deadlines, for 14 things a week and things like that. But I can put in the amount of effort that I have in it. I still have a full-time job. I've still got a family and kids and stuff. And so the fact that I can do this, I just imagine now. I really wish I would have gotten into this when I was in college because God, like imagine the time that you would have, the training, have a journalism class. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, and you're just like, oh wait, were you one of the people who was said to just be in it for the money,
I
and
think
ask
so. I mean,
soft
everybody,
questions?
yeah, the legend Alex,
Uh,
and all the sheep. We did talk about that yesterday when we were waiting to go into the locker room. We were talking about all of us. We were packed in the hallway, and it was like, look at all these sheep. Like, look at us all.
right.
That was funny too, because I guess if you want to think that, I
Oh
mean,
my god, that just makes me like, what do you want them to ask?
yeah, I mean, you can ask certain questions. I mean, Heinz is much better than Laviolette ever was. I mean, Laviolette Heinz will actually give you a half decent answer to something, even if you're not going to get anything, new out of him for that. Like he'll at least answer it, and he doesn't look at you like you're an idiot. Unless, there's one person he looks at like they're an idiot, but I think everybody looks at that person that way when he decides to show up. So,
I don't know
um,
who you're referring to, but
yeah, no, I don't want to say it, but we all know who it is. We all know. I mean, it's again.
I feel like I need to be told this behind the scenes.
There's a certain radio person. He's not
Oh,
gonna hear.
I know who you're
Stillman,
talking.
Jared
Yeah.
Stillman.
Oh my
Yeah,
god, I literally just follow him to just admonish him, basically.
I have like four people on Twitter that I blocked, and he is 100% one of them.
No,
He's entertaining, and he's good at what his job is, which is to get people upset and get people to listen to him because he's got some outrageous take. But you would think that some people who are like that, you think about that like in entertainment or something, like people who are, you know, that's what their brand is. Like when you meet them in person, you're like, oh, this is a person who is, doing the job. Like it's not really who they are. No, no, 100%. He is 100% what
oh,
you
he's like
hear.
that in person.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Dude.
mean, he's not the most unpleasant person, but he's just got that like he knows, and he's smart and he knows it. And yeah, but anyways, I feel bad because I just sat there and talked about how welcoming people can be and get you in there. But again, it takes of that level and that consistency to get you to a point where people don't really like you.
Yeah. Well, I thought he was gonna block me during the game against Philly or something. 6 days ago, whatever game that was. I thought he was gonna block me because I called him dumb.
Oh, well, that you could have worn that one like a badge of honor.
Well, he said that Alexander Carrier was too small to be in the to belong in the NHL, and I was like, dude, the argument about size in the NHL is the dumbest thing that you can do. I was like,
I mean,
just don't be dumb. And like, I thought I was gonna get blocked.
yeah, I mean, like I said, when you tune in to watch one hockey game every couple weeks, then yeah, you make your own opinions and you believe in your heart that they're correct, which is probably not true. So,
Yeah.
well, I really appreciate you having me on. I've had an awesome time.
Oh yeah, no, like thank you for coming on and just giving giving a very small podcast a shot to just chill out and
Hmm.
talk and
Oh yeah, it's been really great. And like I said, like next time if you got the whole crew, they're all available. I'll come back and do it again anytime.
yeah, if you ever want to come back on again, just let me know, and I'll definitely will have you on again. Like we'll have anyone on again that's been on here.
Yeah, awesome. Well, I appreciate it, man. It's been really fun.
Yeah, I've had a lot of fun too.
Awesome. Well, thanks. I mean, this is good. I just realized I just looked at the clock and went, "Holy crap!" That was a very fast hour.
Yeah. Oh wait. Oh my God. Oh, it's 10:07. Man.
Yeah, see, it hit me like that too.
Jesus. That was Bryan Bastin of On The Forecheck. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you enjoyed it, leave a like and subscribe. Leave a dislike if you didn't like it, and have a wonderful